A migration job fails after exactly 15 minutes. The logs say, task timed out after 15:00 minutes. The database is left in a mid-migration state with no rollback. The root cause? Lambda has a hard 15-minute execution timeout, and the migration script took 20 minutes. Let's break down why this happens and how to fix it. Welcome to TheCodeForge. Before we dig into that production issue, let's cover Introduction to Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is the world's leading cloud platform, letting you rent computing power, storage, and databases on demand. Instead of buying servers, you pay per second and scale globally. Amazon Web Services, Lambda enforces a hard 15-minute timeout on all function invocations. At 900 seconds, execution is terminated immediately, no cleanup, no retry. You must design for this constraint. Amazon Web Services runs out of 33 geographic regions, each with at least 3 availability zones, physically separate data centers. Edge locations cache content closer to users. Every Amazon Web Services architecture starts with these 5 building blocks. Elastic Compute Cloud for compute, simple storage service for files, relational database service for databases, Lambda for event-driven code, and identity and access management for security. This bash script sets up the skeleton of a web app. It checks your identity and access management identity, creates a simple storage service bucket, and lists elastic compute cloud instance types. Always confirm who you are first to avoid costly mistakes. Choosing between Elastic Compute Cloud and Lambda is the most consequential decision. Use Elastic Compute Cloud for long-running, predictable workloads. Use Lambda for event-driven, short-lived tasks under 15 minutes. This Lambda function triggers on simple storage service uploads, generates a thumbnail, and saves it to another bucket. Notice Bodo3 clients are created outside the handler for performance. Identity and access management is the security backbone. By default, everything is denied. You grant only the exact permissions needed, scoped to specific resources. This limits blast radius if compromised. This identity and access management policy grants read-only access to a specific simple storage service bucket and CloudWatch logging. Note the 2 resource ARNs, one for the bucket, one for objects. A common mistake is forgetting the bucket Amazon resource name without, which breaks list bucket. Security is shared. Amazon Web Services protects the data centers and hardware. You protect your data, identity and access management policies, and configurations. Always enable encryption, it's not on by default. Amazon Web Services offers 4 pricing models. Use on-demand for flexibility, reserved or savings plans for steady-state workloads, and spot for batch jobs that can handle interruptions. Beyond Elastic Compute Cloud and Lambda, Fargate runs containers without managing servers. Use Lambda for glue, Fargate for persistent microservices, Elastic Compute Cloud for full control or cost-sensitive scale. A production architecture typically uses Route 53 for DNS, CloudFront for content delivery network, and ALB for load balancing, Elastic Compute Cloud or Lambda for compute, relational database service for databases, and simple storage service for storage. This script creates an relational database service PostgreSQL SQL instance in a private subnet. Note the use of secrets manager for the password and deletion protection to prevent accidental deletion. Every resource lives in a virtual private cloud. Use public subnets for load balancers, private subnets for Elastic Compute Cloud, and relational database service. Security groups are stateful, NACLs are stateless. Enable virtual private cloud flow logs for debugging. This script creates a virtual private cloud with public and private subnets, an internet gateway, and a NAT gateway. It's the foundation for secure networking in Amazon Web Services. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The team migrated a 20-minute CSV processing job to Lambda without splitting the work. The function ran for 14 minutes, but when data volume grew, it hit the 900-second limit. Partial data was already written to simple storage service, so retries caused duplicate records. The fix was to split the work into sub-minute chunks using step functions or simple queue service batch windows. They also implemented idempotency with checkpointing so that a timeout doesn't corrupt state. For jobs over 15 minutes, use Amazon Web Services batch instead. This is the incident from the hook. The team used Lambda for a 20-minute job without splitting it. The function timed out, leaving partial data in simple storage service, and retries created duplicates. Always split long jobs or use a different compute service. Without a connection pool, each Lambda invocation opens a new database connection. At scale, you'll exceed PostgreSQL's max connections and crash the app. Use Relational Database Service Proxy to pool connections. If you only include the / Amazon resource name, the list bucket action fails silently because it applies to the bucket itself, not objects. Always include both ARNs. The article mentions Lambda's 15-minute timeout, but doesn't emphasize that this is a hard platform limit, not configurable. For workloads exceeding 15 minutes, use Amazon Web Services Fargate, Batch, or Elastic Compute Cloud instead. Always design with idempotency and checkpointing to handle timeouts gracefully. The article discusses identity and access management least privilege, but doesn't show a concrete policy. Here's a minimal identity and access management policy that grants a Lambda function read-only access to a specific simple storage service bucket and CloudWatch logging, scoped to the exact resources needed. The article warns about Lambda exhausting relational database service connections, but doesn't mention Relational Database Service Proxy as the solution. Relational Database Service Proxy pools and reuses database connections, preventing the too many connections error. It's a managed service that handles failover and is essential for serverless architectures. To debug timeout issues, check CloudWatch logs for task timed out messages, monitor the duration metric in CloudWatch, and enable Lambda insights for cold start analysis. Always test with smaller payloads first. Let's run through some common interview questions. What is Lambda's max timeout? 900 seconds, 15 minutes, hard limit. How do you handle Lambda plus relational database service connections? Use Relational Database Service Proxy for connection pooling. What is the difference between security group and NACL? SG is stateful, attached to resources. NACL is stateless, attached to subnets. And a few frequently asked questions. Can I extend Lambda timeout beyond 15 min? No, it's a hard limit. Use Elastic Compute Cloud or Fargate. Is simple storage service encryption enabled by default? No, you must enable it explicitly. What is the shared responsibility model? Amazon Web Services secures infrastructure. You secure data and access. Key takeaways. Lambda's 15-minute timeout is a hard limit. Always split long jobs, use identity and access management least privilege, encrypt everything, and use Relational Database Service Proxy with Lambda to avoid connection exhaustion. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Amazon Web Services Elastic Compute Cloud Basics, then Amazon Web Services Simple Storage Service Basics, then Amazon Web Services Virtual Private Cloud and Networking. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.